I just do want to do a loop around the area first before we jump to any conclusions, and then try and work out what to do next. The catch is that these elephants have trampled the ground, and therefore are going to make it very tricky to see any tracks. Aaron, you would like to know if I think the elephants knock over the trees into the road on purpose. I do not think so, not even the slightest possible chance that they do that, but that is just my opinion. I don't think they would have any inclination or reason. Ooh. Okay, we're in the money. Let me just reposition the vehicle ever so slightly. We've got some fresh tracks here. And yeah, so Aaron, I don't think elephants would want to do that. Just to finish that off. So, if we look, hold on, I want to start the right way around here. If we look over here, we will notice some leopard tracks. I'm not sure how you guys can see them, but nice. As soon as it says you can see them nice and clearly. The back pad here, the front toes over here, going up the road. Then, over here, we've got more leopard tracks going back down the road in the opposite direction. Then, we look over here, and we see a tiny little cub track, which means the initial tracks I showed you was of her going off hunting, up the road away from me. Then, she came back to collect the cub with this set of tracks. Then the cub followed her to wherever they've gone. So, with a little bit of luck, we are going to find where they have gone. My only concern is that if they've gone this way, we cannot follow. So let's just hope they've gone that way. Otherwise, all this excitement will have to be extinguished. Woohoo! Well, at least we've got a chance of finding something here. Magic. Okay, we're going to continue concentrating on these tracks and send you across to Steve, who is going to welcome on board a class of school kids. Very good.
Yes, and good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to Heyman Morris Middle School. Welcome to Safari Live. I believe this is your first time with us. Welcome, welcome. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by Sep Rombi on the camera. We're joined by my good friend Rexon. We are out in the African wilderness. Just have a look. We are in the middle of absolutely nowhere. We are on a bushwalk. Please feel free to send through your questions and comments with your teacher. Get to just send them through and tell us your name as well. Hopefully we can answer them. This is live and interactive Game Drive Safari. I'm joined by two other colleagues, Taylor and Scott, both of them on a vehicle. Looking forward to spending the next 45 minutes or so with you. We are out at the moment, believe it or not, searching this tall grass for a male leopard. On foot. He was seen in this area this morning chasing a herd of buffalo. As crazy as that might sound, a male leopard trying to kill a buffalo. He's a young boy. He's only 2 years old. His name is Hosanna, which means the little prince. He's a good friend of ours, and we're hoping to maybe find him on foot and give you a visual of that. That would be fantastic. But while we're searching, we are going to be climbing on termite mounds, and the grass is very long. Hayden would like to know the current temperature. It is 33 degrees Celsius, 92 degrees Fahrenheit here. It is a nice cool afternoon for our summer. It can get up to the hundreds Fahrenheit quite easily. And when we are on foot walking, it is wonderful to have cooler temperatures, even though it is relatively hot. So while we continue searching for this male leopard in this very thick grass environment, we're going to go to my friend Taylor McCurdy. She would like to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The theme, of course, today is tracking leopards, and hopefully we'll find some for all of you who are watching from Heyman Morris Middle School. It's great to have you on board. I'm Taylor, and behind the camera is David, and hopefully we're going to find some amazing animals for you this afternoon. So we are having a look for a young male leopard, and that was seen here yesterday. He goes by the name of Tumba, but there are also lots and lots of elephant tracks around. So perhaps we're going to see my absolute favorite animal this afternoon too. But for now, we're in a very, very dense pocket of vegetation. We've had lots of rain in the last few weeks, so the grass is tall and the trees are filled with leaves. Lovely question from young Riley here this afternoon. You've said, is it difficult to distinguish between tracks, and how do we do it? What a great question. Well, shall we try and find some tracks? I'm just a little bit cautious at the moment. I was just charged by a big elephant, and I think we're in a similar area, so I just want to make sure that I don't get out the car where this angry elephant was. But let me see if I can find some good tracks, some really nice ones that are easy to see, because in some of the soft sand that we're driving on, it can be a little bit difficult to spot them. So when I do find a good one, even if it's not now and a little bit later, we will come back to this. So it's pretty easy once you've been doing it for a couple of years, but of course, like anything, when you first start identifying tracks, it's very difficult. So the more you practice, the better you get. The more areas you move in, the more different types of animals that you're exposed to, and of course they're leaving footprints behind. But it's not just their footprints. You can see a tail mark on the ground. You might see where an elephant has put its trunk flat on the ground too, perhaps a drag mark from a leopard that is dragging its kill to a nearby tree. So you don't just have to learn about that. There's lots of other elements you have to learn with tracking. And tracking, honestly, is the easy part. Trailing, which is actually following the animal, following the tracks that it has left, and finding it, is super difficult. We all struggle with that. It's not an easy art, and I haven't been tracking and trailing for such a long time because I've been up in Kenya. Let's see, this is another good road. But of course, when I want to show you something, there won't be any tracks anyway. That's just how it goes in the bush. But maybe there's some really nice ones here. These ones all seem to be quite wind-blown. So it's a little bit windy here, which is not great for us. So all the sand is actually covered over the top of it. Let's see. No, these are not great tracks. Okay, we'll save that, Riley. We'll get back to it and we'll discuss it when I find some cool ones. But Aiden, you've said, what is the best time of the year to see animals? Any time of the year, in fact. Because now that there's lots of green grass and lots of leaves and flowers and things around, there's lots of food available for all the animals. So that means it's bringing in animals from far and wide. Now, the weather pattern can be quite localized, so we might get rain here, and just a few miles away, there might not be any rain at all. So the grass will grow here, the animals would have grazed down, say, a little bit further south, and then they'll start moving towards the north to get all the new green grass and all the new green leaves that are starting to grow on the trees. So this is a good time of the year. But then also winter is quite nice because there's no grass. All the grass is completely eaten and it dies. All the trees, most of the trees, lose their leaves. So it becomes very, very easy to spot things from further away. So it makes for finding animals a lot easier. Now, we've got to work really, really, really hard to try and find anything. Come on, where's an elephant track at least? That would be nice. Of course, there's nothing on this road, and this is quite a made road too. So lots of vehicles driving up and down here, not leaving any decent footprints behind, but I'm going to keep an eye out for it and we'll see what he can find. But Steve, who's going to be better at tracking and trailing from the ground, let's go and see where he is, and perhaps he can show you a few tracks too.
Thank you, Taylor. Yes, we are looking for tracks, and we haven't managed to find anything of the little prince anywhere, or the little chief, as Seb correctly informed me. Husana means little chief, but I think little prince and little chief are quite similar. We're looking for some tracks for you, though. Maddie would like to know what are the main birds that we see in this area, and there are whole lots of birds. There are sparrows, there are starlings, eagles, sparrowhawks, larks, buntings, geese and ducks, There are about 900 species in South Africa, and in this area we could potentially find about 300 and something, which is quite a lot of birds. At the moment we have a few of the international birds, or should I say the migratory birds. The cuckoos are here from the north, Jacobin cuckoo, Llewellyn's cuckoo, Deirdre's cuckoo, as well as the red-chested cuckoo. We've also got migrants like the European swallow, European bee-eater. There are so many birds, so many birds. I'm guessing that you like your birds. I like my birds very much. Hopefully we can find you one. It's difficult really to talk too much about them without seeing them. But while being on foot as well, we have the potential to show you some really nice tracks. But walking through this long grass, we've had some rain about a week ago or so, and the ground is very hard. It's very, very hard and difficult to see what's going on. So to track a leopard in this is very difficult. And bearing in mind that the leopard was chasing a herd of buffalo, the buffalo have made marks in the ground, and I will find you some of them shortly. But talking about birds, Taylor has managed to find one for you, and I believe it's a character from The Lion King.
It is indeed a character from The Lion King, Steve. It is a southern red-billed hornbill. Now, for a bird with such a long beak, it's quite accurate when it uses it. And I think, Steve, you were just talking about some of the birds we get here, so perhaps you may have mentioned it already. Now, I think what it is doing is that it is breaking open. I don't know if that's dung or bits of soil. No, it looks like dung. And I think it's getting little termites or little beetles that are perhaps living in that dung, or trying to at least take it home and decompose it. And the termites and little beetles that it'll be going after will be really, really tiny. So can you imagine if you used a pair of chopsticks and you tried to pick up a grain of rice? It'd be very difficult. I know I would definitely struggle to do that, but this bird has had so much practice that it doesn't even find it to be an issue whatsoever. And my absolute favorite part is the way that once they've got their little insects, they often toss it up into the air and clamp their beak shut and catch it, which is pretty cool to see. Let's see if it does it again. See, trying to turn it over. And also watch how it tilts its head and looks around, because it can see the insects too. Definitely eating little termites. That's amazing. And termites are really, really good in protein and other types of nutrients. So they are a food source for not just bird species, but lots and lots of other animals out here too. There's some animals out here, like aardvark aardvark, for example, that will just eat termites. The direct translation is an earth pig. Off it runs. They're always quite funny when they run. Now, Finn, you're wondering what are the primary scavengers in the park? Well, it's not the hornbill. So primary scavengers would have to be something like the hyenas, perhaps the jackals, which looks a little bit like a fox. They'd be very good at scavenging. And then, of course, vultures. So another bird species that scavenges quite heavily. In fact, most vulture species rely on scavenging. Not many of them can hunt for themselves at all. They've got these big stubby toes, which makes it quite difficult to catch anything. Things like jackal and hyenas, though, most of the time they're actually doing their own hunting, and they substitute their diet with, of course, scavenging on carcasses. I saw a few more birds up ahead, so let's go and see what else there is. Termites are delicious, and I hope we get to see some more. Let's see. Oh, should we have a little look? Looks like impala dung. I just want to... Maybe it was getting beetles. Maybe little tiny microscopic dung beetle. Not microscopic, that's too small. But small dung beetles. I'm going to jump out the car quickly. And we can even see the footprints too. We should be able to find some footprints here. Hope I didn't stand on any. No, of course not. You can't see them clearly. So now if I was a hornbill, I don't think I'd be able to break open the dung as easily as it's able to do. I'm going to use a stick. I can use my hands. This is actually not very fresh. Now, the reason why I'm not worried about touching this with my hands is because it's just grass. There's only just grass in here. Look how I'm struggling. Actually, let me bring this up closer. Have a look at this. So, if you look in there, I'm going to try and get the light on it. Darby, can you see the little holes? So all those little holes probably would have had beetles or something that was feeding on this dung. And I think that's what the red-billed hornbill was going for. So it was basically cracking it open. My hands are dirty now, like that. Let's see if we can find one. Crack, 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 crack. Have we got any beetles? No. None whatsoever. But you can see, look how fine all of that is. So the impala's very, very good at digesting vegetation. They barely leave anything left, which is why their feces is quite small. They're little pellets. Very cool. And this is quite nice as well. Something that you can do. I bet you didn't realize you could do something like this, is you can take dung that's dried up slightly when you are in bushwalk and you don't have a little ash bag to try and determine wind direction. Break enough up so you can actually see. You can look at this. You gotta look carefully. Obviously the bigger pieces are not going to go, but the wind is blowing down towards the west. So quite cool. Give my hands a bit of a clean on my clothes. Don't tell my mom, she'll be very upset. She saw me wiping my hands on my clothes. So lots of different things. And no, I can't see any of those bird tracks. I think I may have walked over them, which is a pity. But we'll find some more, I promise, at some point. Very nice. Well, I can see some antelope and things up ahead. We'll try and get a bit closer and call you back. But let's go see what Scott has.
Hello everyone, my name's Scott and it's a great pleasure to have you on safari with me. I'm sure you've been having a good time with Taylor and Steve. Now, you might be wondering why I'm out the vehicle crouched down on the road here. And the reason being is because we are trying to find a leopard, specifically a female leopard with a small 4-month-old cub. And I had some of her tracks walking down this road towards where I am here, and then it veered off for a while, but then I found some more tracks over here. So it might be tricky to see. We're in a bit of a shadow, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 toes in front and the back pad over there, and she was heading in that direction across the road. Now what's further interesting is that the last tracks I had of her, which weren't far away, maybe 40 feet away, the cub was following her. Yet here, her tracks are alone. So maybe she's moved the cub to somewhere where she feels safe, left it alone, and has now gone off hunting without worrying about the cub disturbing any hunting opportunities that she may have. Now, I have heard some crunching noises behind me, and there's a very, very big animal there. It's going to be difficult to see, but let's try and show you. It's through the bushes. One of my favorite animals, and I'm not sure if you've seen any yet this afternoon. An elephant. And you can see its trunk there. I'm just going to jump back into the vehicle. I'll try to be gentle so we don't shake the camera too much. And there we go. Back in action in the seat. And you can see a big elephant there snacking on something. I'm not too sure what, but they use that very long nose of theirs to try and pick up as much food as possible. They eat a huge amounts of food every day, about 300 pounds for an elephant this size. Can you believe that for a fact? Hello, Ellie. Well, isn't it appropriate that you asked your question while we were sitting with an Ellie? I think so. And you would like to know, how would I describe my job and what would I kind of call myself? Well, there's 2 names that you can call people that do what we do. Either a game ranger, or more appropriately, a field guide or a guide. So that's what we do, and I would describe my job as one of the most exciting jobs in the world. I get to drive around in a convertible car every day through the beautiful African wilderness, showing people the animals that live here. So I certainly do love my job, and you guys will be glad to know that quite a few American people come out here and become guides, so you don't have to have grown up in Africa to do this. You can come across whenever you finished your college. And to be honest, it's not very difficult to be a guide. All you have to do is be passionate about animals, and you do have to have some people skills. You spend a lot of time talking to people, because those are the guests that you're taking around, showing them all the wonderful animals. So if you just like animals and don't like people, then this would be the wrong job for you. It's a combination of people and animals that you need to enjoy. Now, it looks like this elephant has cleverly come underneath this tree to feed on marula fruits. Now, there's quite a few branches in the way, but we can try and take a close look it pops the golf ball-sized fruits into its mouth very quickly, so it's going to be tricky to see. And sometimes they pick up about 2 or 3. Oh, big shake of the head there, probably to get rid of all the flies. You can see them all buzzing around him there. Hundreds of them. And at this time of the year, the marula fruits is the favorite fruit for the elephants. They absolutely love them. They're high in vitamin C. They're quite sweet and juicy. And they literally go from tree to tree trying to feed on them. And imagine, just for a second or two, if we used our nose to pick up our food and throw it into our mouth, because that's exactly what he's doing. And another crazy thing that they do with their nose is that they essentially sniff up water, filling that long tube, and then blow it straight back out into their mouth to drink. They also use their nose for sniffing, just like we do. They've got a very good sense of smell. So, very interesting tool that they have. Mrs. Miller, you would like to know if there's a problem with the ivory trade here in this area, and thankfully, Mrs. Miller, not really. Here in South Africa, our biggest problem is the trade of rhino horn, and that seems to be one of the most popular things for poachers to try and get. Rhino horn is worth more than gold per kilogram. It's something ridiculous, I think, like $50,000 to $70,000 a kilogram of horn, and your average white rhino will have about 3 kilograms of horn. So sadly, it's the rhinos that are taking huge battering, their population. The elephant's ivory is not as lucrative. It's not worth as much money. However, there are other African countries where there's not as many rhino to poach, and then elephants are kind of second on the list. So quite a lot of elephant poaching does get done further north into Africa. And another problem that elephants face is that in quite a few parts of Africa, wild animals and humans have no fences between them. And what that means is that animals like elephants can go and raid people's farms and crops. So there's quite a lot of conflict between humans and wildlife, not just elephants. Lions also try and eat people's cows and goats. So there is quite a lot of human-animal conflict that causes people to try and defend their crops and their livelihood and or their livestock, and that means they sadly take it out on the wild animals that may be causing trouble to them. So it's not just poaching, but like I say, with the massive growth in our population as a species, we are populating very quickly, and there's not enough space for both us and the animals to exist harmoniously like we did many, many years ago, and that is causing some very, very big issues. I would say probably it's more of an issue than poaching, in my opinion. The poaching of their habitat, not of one individual species, but of the home of all the animals that live here. People are coming in and getting in the way. Very good. Well, we're going to continue our search for this leopard and her cub. I could think of nothing better than showing that to you and send you across to Steve, who's found you a plant.
Yes, I have. It wasn't that difficult. The plant was exactly where it is and has stayed. Hasn't moved, which makes life easy when tracking plants. And I believe someone would like to know if there are any edible plants out there. Terry or Perry, I apologize if I get that wrong, but we have found probably one of the tastiest plants in the African wilderness. This is a lovely buffalo thorn. And it's got some very sharp thorns, one straight thorn and one hooked. But these leaves can be picked off and eaten just like that, as a spinach. Very tasty, very tasty. I eat this all the time, and it's very edible, and the animals enjoy it too. And just on the other side here, we found something else quite special, quite camouflaged on the plant, something that the birds I was talking about before, for example the cuckoos, is their favorite meal. Just underneath the branch here, we have got a beautiful, beautiful green caterpillar. Now, many of the tree species we find here have got caterpillars that are essentially plant specific, so they'll only really be on those plants or a specific variety of plants that they like to be on. And this one is enjoying the buffalo thorn, and it will pupate, so this will eat itself until it's really, really big and fat, and then it'll make a pupa, like a cocoon, which it'll go inside of and then come out as a beautiful, beautiful butterfly. And then the butterfly will continue the life cycle of this beautiful insect. But the cuckoos, they come all the way from the north of Africa and from Europe to feed primarily on caterpillars. Isn't that marvelous? You fly all the way from Europe, not to feed on leaves or seeds or anything. You come here for those little caterpillars. And what we also found, because I know there's some interest in tracks, and we had some lion moving through the property yesterday or last night. And what we have found here is a very nice track of a lion. And this looks like a lioness. Can you see the toes? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here is the back pad there. So there, my hand, you can see the size difference. I'll show you the size difference with the Leatherman, which is quite nice to put as a reference. And then I'm going to quickly get you my tracking book to show you the track of a lion. And the lion and leopard tracks are very, very similar in what they look like, but they are very different in size. So if I can quickly find that for you in my book. Where are you? 86. Okay, here we go. And there is the tracks of lion. Now the male lion is a little bit bigger than the female, generally. And the female lion gets up to about 13 centimeters. Oh, that's a male there, sorry. The female gets up, 13 centimeters, quite narrow the back pad. And the male has got a very, very big, broad pad at the front. A leopard is about 9 centimeters. So the size is very different. So when you are ever tracking and you come across a track, it's important to know the size of it. And by using a Leatherman, it's easy because there's a ruler on the inside of the Leatherman. And also when you have an amazing tracking book like the one I have here, there is also a ruler there. Because if you take a photo of this and you want to make sure you can remember it later, by seeing the size comparison, it's the only way to really tell. If you didn't take a photo with a comparison of size, you would be unsure of what it is if you're looking for it later. So always do that. Always carry a multi-tool if you're out here in the wilderness, and always have a very nice handy tracking book. And this lion was heading in that direction. So we're going to continue on and catch up with Rex, who's just around the corner, and maybe find you some more edible plants, because I love munching on the wilderness as we go by. I am a vegetarian, so I need to keep snacking as we go. And there's lots of wonderful plants. And this time of year, in the summer months, we have grasses and trees and leaves, all of which are growing. And if we grab a grass like this, it's always nice to do when you pull the grass out from the sheath. The base of the grass is where it grows, and this is when you can taste if it's sweet or not. Lovely. So, it's actually not that nice, this one particularly, but it's juicy and it's wetting my mouth. I'm going to quickly go over to Scott, who's racing somewhere. Let's see what he's up to.
Woohoo! We are rushing! And the reason why we're rushing is because we've got a report that some lions have been found. So we want to try and get there as quickly as possible to make sure we don't miss out on any action. And when lions are on the move, they could stumble upon prey at any time. And I'm also guessing that they may actually reunite with some of their, well, there's one small cub and 5 kind of teenagers in the pride, and I think that they left them when they went, the parents left them when they went hunting. So it'll be wonderful to see them reunite with their kids. I'm sure they're going to be very happy. Hold on tight, everybody. Woohoo! This is one of my favorite parts of being on safari, when you get that call over the radio saying that there's some exciting stuff on the cards. So that's something for you guys to look forward to. I don't want to race with you guys for too long, so we're going to send you back to Steve until we get a bit closer to the lions.
Scott, I wonder what it is that he is after. I wonder what it is that he is after. Hopefully he finds it. I believe he is looking for some lions, so hopefully he can find them for you. Maya, hello Maya, how are you? I don't get lost. I sometimes get temporarily disorientated, but getting lost is a different phrase than getting temporarily disorientated. Getting lost means you have to ask for help. But what is the easiest thing to do out in the African wilderness? Watch out for those buffalo thorn branches there, Seb. In the African wilderness, the best is to know where the sun is, and there's the sun, and we know that the sun is setting in the west, and it rises in the east. So it is quite easy to do certain navigations, but unfortunately this time of day it's very hard for me to draw the watch method in the sand now because the sun is too low down. But I know that that is west, so if I point west with my left hand, then I know that that is north, and that is obviously east, and then south is behind me. So the sun is the easiest method to use. I was told a funny story years ago by a guest that I had who said the best way to determine direction is to take off your watch, tie on a piece of string and swing it around and let it go, and that'll be north. Obviously it's a very funny story because it's not true. Don't ever do that. It does not work. But I can maybe design something in the road. Actually, the problem is that the sun is too low for me to do the watch method. But as the sun sets, as it gets a little bit darker, the stars will come up and we can use the Southern Cross, or we can use the Milky Way. We can even navigate with Orion's Belt, which I believe is also known as the Big Dipper, if I'm not mistaken. And those are quite easy to navigate. There are nice techniques behind that, and they give very, very good direction. The Southern Cross, for example, if you look at Australia and New Zealand, their flags, both of their flags have got the Southern Cross emblem on there because navigators found Australia and New Zealand by following that constellation. Because unlike those of you in the Northern Hemisphere who've got the Northern Star that sits there and the Earth kind of sort of rotates around it, we've got the Southern Cross which sits sort of to our southern side, and it moves around the sky, and by drawing a few lines and connect a few dots, it's very easy to navigate and to get a true bearing on south. So I hope that that helps. And getting lost in the bush is not fun. But it's good to have the techniques at hand. And if the sun was shining now, I will show you a very nice technique in the sand. So in South Africa, we don't get very cold temperatures, especially in the savannah. It doesn't get less than maybe about 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. So that's about 10 plus 30, it's about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not that cold. We don't get snow, we don't get ice, and there's no need for any of our animals to hibernate. Yes, we will have migrations in certain parts of the country. Well, there used to be. And animals will cache food, but there will be no active sort of hibernation like what happens to certain animals in the Northern Hemisphere. And that's got to do with drastic change in climate, from ice and snow back to very green and lush. What you see now is as green as it gets, and in a couple of months it's going to start turning brown, and the leaves are going to start falling off the trees, the grass is going to disappear, but it doesn't get cold enough for animals to really need to hibernate. Okay, I hope that answers that question. And we are forever on the trail of some animals, and we are slowly following up on the direction of those buffalo to see if we could show you one of the glorious big 5 animals before the end of the show. And as it starts getting dark, it's not the best place to be in the bush walking when it's dark. So while we continue on looking for all these big and hairy animals to show you, we're going to go to Scott, who I believe is also just driving and navigating his way through the African bush.
Yes, as you can see, we have slowed down, and apparently the lions that were heading into our area have stopped. And just like I was saying a little bit earlier, how humans and animals there can be too many of us and not enough space for the animals. It's the same kind of thing here, except we control it. So there's certain roads and areas where we can drive and others where we cannot. they're invisible boundaries for the animals. The animals can cross anywhere they like, they can go wherever they like, but we can't, and that's so that there's not too many vehicles in any given area. And that's exactly what's happened here. One of the areas where we don't drive, close to our border, is where the lions are, and the lions just lay down just before they arrived on our little turf, but there is still a chance that they're going to get up once they've had a little bit of a break and continue coming towards us. But don't worry, because our race around has led us into an area where this morning Taylor was lucky enough to see a beautiful young male leopard. And interestingly, he was being quite sneaky. He was trying to catch a buffalo, which is very big for a leopard, and very dangerous for a leopard. But if he managed to catch a baby buffalo, that would work for him. And he actually did manage to catch a baby buffalo about a week ago. Nobody saw it. They just found him with the baby buffalo kill that he had dragged up into a tree away from the hungry scavenging hyenas. So maybe he's still lurking around this area. We're about to arrive at the waterhole where he was seen last. This is where Taylor left him, and who knows, maybe he's spent the day here relaxing, and hopefully he's going to pop out somewhere right here. Maybe he's having a drink right this second. Is he? His name's Hosanna. Hosanna! Where are you? He's got very good camouflage, as do all leopards. So it's easy to overlook them if you don't scan very carefully. Okay, well, we're going to have a look around. There's no immediate sign of any leopard here, but I just want to make sure, and you guys can go over and do a very, very slow clap for Taylor, because it took her about 2 days to change her tire.
That's so mean. I'm just joking, we all tease each other. So the reason why we took a little bit longer than normal is because I was also a bit out of practice. I haven't changed a tire in well over 6 months. And then also showing David how to use a high lift jack. So it's a big jack, you can see it just in front of the car there, and it's a very, very dangerous piece of equipment, because if you don't use it correctly, you can end up breaking your jaw. Don't want to be doing that now, do you? But guess where we've arrived? We've arrived at another watering hole. This one is massive though. Oh, and my favorite ducks too. So there they are. They're the ducks with the white faces. I was hoping we were going to see them today. We're not going to stay here for too long because we're going to look at some hippos just now. Those are white-faced whistling ducks, and there seems to be quite a big flock of them just hanging about on the edge of the water. But look how beautiful they are. You might even be able to hear them calling, going. They make an interesting call. And Kirsten, who is directing today, she also says that they're her favorite. You might be able to hear them. But not interested in swimming just yet. There they go. So I don't think they will go back in the water for the rest of the evening. I reckon they're just going to settle here on the edge of the banks. Now, I want to race forward because I can see some hippos that are playing in the water, and I know that that's super exciting. And I think you've all seen quite a few birds today. So let's show you some mammals. I'm going to go as quick as I can. Now, as we drive across this big dam wall, young Lizzie has asked if we ever pick up or touch the animals. We try not to. Obviously, we don't touch any of the predators and any of the elephants and things like that. But sometimes we'll pick up the insects and put them in our hands so we can see them a little bit better. But we always make sure that we are super gentle. We don't want to disturb them. We try not to pick up other reptiles. We don't touch frogs. The reason why we don't like to pick frogs up is because they actually absorb oxygen through their skin, and you can imagine that skin is very, very sensitive, so they can absorb the toxins that are on our hands from all the different detergents and soaps and perfumes that we use. You also may have seen another safari vehicle out on Drive 2 enjoying this hippo sighting. Look at them go! These are always very funny animals to watch, especially in the afternoon. And it looks like there's a nice pod of young hippos. They don't all look like they're fully grown just yet. Those look like they're only a few years old. And then there's some even younger ones on the right-hand side, pushing and shoving one another. Woo! Look at them go. Very graceful in the water too, surprisingly. because they've got very stumpy little legs. You wouldn't think that they could move around so easily. What are you doing? Biting the log. And they've pushed this tree almost completely over. Those poor birds that are nesting in that tree are probably stressing that one morning they're going to wake up with very soggy feathers. And that's from the hippos scratching up against it, and then of course roughhousing near it, opening their mouths now. You've got no teeth just yet. You're going to just gum one another. This is really nice to see. I haven't seen the hippos so playful since I've been back at work, so I've been trying to come here every single afternoon. And the reason why they are so playful at this time of the day is because as the sun starts to set, the hippos have been sleeping and resting for most of the day, sunbathing, catching up on some siestas, and now they're ready to start their day. Can you hear them? One just started talking, but not very loudly. It was just whispering to its friend. How nice were those sounds? There we go. So those were the hippos making all sorts of noises, communicating with one another. Now, Leighton, you're wondering which is the easiest animal to track. Well, hippos leave big footprints out on the ground. There's one opening its mouth now. So they can be fairly easy and predictable too, because they come out of the water at night time to go grazing. So funny enough, these animals with these big teeth, they just eat grass. And I can't help but laugh at all those wrinkles and rolls that the young hippos haven't grown into their skin just yet. So at night they'll be out, they'll make a big path there, they'll leave their big footprints around, and then as the sun starts to rise, or even just before the sun starts to rise, they head back towards the water where they'll spend the rest of the day. So hippos, I think, are fairly easy to track. Lions too, because they're predominantly living in prides and family groups, so there's normally more than one of them, leaving lots of footprints on the ground. So it's a lot easier to track a pride of lions than one leopard on its own. But it does take quite a bit of skill to track the various animals out here. But they're all just playing, all very excited now. Oh, this is lovely. Yeah, pushing and shoving, playing with one another. Now, we're sitting at this dam, and Sean, it's funny that you should ask this question, because you've asked about if we ever use drones, and yes we do, and this is a hot spot for the drones, flying up above the dam, looking in some of the nests. We can sometimes see the Egyptian goose nests, actually, which we'll show you in a minute. So they'll sit here, and one of the we've got 2 drone pilots, and they're also cameramen as well. How cool is that? Oh, what an amazing job. They'll sit and they'll fly it over. The hippos don't seem to mind too much, but we don't go very close to the animals. We always try and make sure that we're up and away from them. But just over there, you might be able to see Chitwa Lodge too. There's some big nests, and there is an Egyptian goose nest up on top. Maybe we can see, because I can see a little bit of white with my naked eye. Yeah, that one there. See what's in there? There we go, that's the nest. So you can sort of see just to the right of those round nests. It looks like there's some feathers, maybe some odd eggshells or something in there, but there is an Egyptian goose nest up there, and it's so cool to see it from the drone. So it's quite nice. We use the drone whenever we can. Now I see vehicles racing around, but I know Scott's close to the boundary, so I don't know if it's because of those lions heading back this way. I'm not exactly sure. We'll just hang tight, because these hippos are pretty amazing to watch too. Here they go again, listen. Now they could be saying all sorts of things. Who knows, maybe they're deciding what they're going to have for dinner. Maybe it's somebody having an argument with another hippo. But these young hippos are not interested in partaking in the communication that's being done now. They just want to play with one another and push and shove and mouth one another. Normally when hippos are doing that, it's with 2 big hippo bulls, so the big boys. My goodness, and they've got massive teeth, huge teeth, and they can fight to the death. It becomes quite aggressive. They thrash water, and the sounds that come out of their mouths almost sounds like you're watching Jurassic Park. It's very dinosaur-like. I can hear birds alarming. I wonder if something's coming this way. Ooh. Now, Mason, you just asked what has been my most frightening moment. I actually kind of just had one a little bit earlier today when I was charged by an elephant cow in the vehicle. So that was a little bit terrifying. That wasn't too great. Otherwise, but obviously we're okay. The other experience I had, which was a little bit scary and also fairly recent, was when I was charged by a buffalo bull near camp. I was out looking for insects for James, and I came across, as I was walking on foot, not far away from camp, and we'd actually the night before we just warned everybody we need to be careful. There's a buffalo that's coming in to try and eat all the vegetation around camp. It was a drought, so there wasn't any grass, there was nothing around. The animals were really stressed, and I happened to bump into this buffalo bull, and David was actually on camera with James in the tent. I was terrified. Here I am, face to face with a huge animal, one of the most dangerous animals in Africa, standing there I was holding a velvet ant in my hand, going, oh no, there's no trees or anything for me to climb. And I'm looking around, standing still, and then he snorted at me and he shook his head. So I shouted at him. That did absolutely nothing. He then started charging towards me, and the only thing that I could do was actually run away. Now, normally we don't run away from animals, but when a buffalo starts charging you and you haven't got a tree or haven't got a termite mound to climb up, you need to try and get away. So I ran into the tent, and I knew that would be a structure that would probably deter this buffalo. And luckily I was right. He stopped. I don't know how I managed to outrun him. And then he snorted at us. He sort of mock charged again, and then he turned and went running down into the drainage line. So that was pretty scary, but I'm here. I live to tell the tale. But of course, I'm a trained safari guide, so I do know what to do in those situations. But it was very scary. I mean, only afterwards, and I was shaking, that I realized how close I was to that buffalo on foot. So yeah, that was one of my most scariest moments. And I hope that I don't ever have an encounter like that again. But I live in the bush, so it's inevitable. There's a really little hippo, just mouthing one another. I wish they would come out of the water so that I could show you how funny hippos look when they're on land, because their legs are really, really tiny. Really, really small. And poor birds, they just can't have any peace, can they? They keep bumping up against that tree. It must shake. It must be like an earthquake. Lots of hippos there. There must be quite a few different family groups that are living in this dam. But very, very cool nonetheless. Anyways, I hope you all at Heyman Morris Middle School enjoyed the safari this afternoon. I hope you learnt a little bit, and we're very excited to have you join us again. So from all of us here, the Wild Earth team, thank you so much for all your questions. I really enjoyed answering them. But I'm going to say goodbye to you, and we'll see you all soon. Right. I'm going to send you down to Scott now to see if he's still patrolling the boundary. And also we've got another school joining us again.
Well, a very, very big welcome to the classroom in Texas at Legacy Elementary. My name's Scott, and it's great to have you guys on board with myself and Senzo on camera. So, I hope you guys have had a good day at school. We've had a good day out here on safari. It's just gone 6:15 in the evening, and we had a really, really cool morning safari. We saw leopard, we tracked lions. Sadly, they moved out of our area where we can drive, but maybe they'll pop in later this evening while you guys are still with us. They're not too far from our boundary. Elephants around, lots of action unfolding, a herd of buffalo. So all kinds of stuff is happening out here, and we are looking forward to spending the rest of the safari with you. Please remember to send through as many questions as you can. Well, Xavier, you've already sent through a question, so thank you very much. You've just asked which is the most common animal. Well, I would say the impala is probably the most common mammal that we see here, and the most rare, I would say, would possibly be something called a pangolin, which is kind of like an armadillo, the African version thereof. It can roll up into a ball. It's got hard scales that it uses to protect itself against any animals that may want to chew on it. But there's a few kind of smaller animals, nocturnal animals, birds that are all kind of quite rare to see. But I've only ever seen one pangolin, and I've driven around this area and other parts of Africa for over 10 years now, and I've only ever seen one in my life. So, good question, Xavier, and who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and find a pangolin this evening. But Steve has found another animal. It's not the most rare, it's not the most common, but it is the tallest.
It is indeed the tallest, and a pangolin. Scott, wow, you would be very lucky if you managed to find one of those. Good afternoon, good evening, little boys and girls from Legacy Elementary. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by Seb Rombi on camera, and we are indeed on foot. And behind me, the tallest land mammal in the world. The southern giraffe. It's one of the many giraffe subspecies in Africa. He's just ducking his head down, busy feeding on the vegetation at the back there. Can you get him, Seb? I'm going to see if we can get a little bit closer. It's a very big animal, but let's see if we can get closer. Haley, it is getting quite dark, and we are heading home because at night time it is very dangerous for us to be out here on foot. I'm not worried about a giraffe, but lions and leopards at night, they're a different ball game than during the day. And we wouldn't dare try and sneak up on a lion or leopard at night time, but during the day they've got a fear of us and they do run away. But let's see if we can get another look at this giraffe, who is not a dangerous animal. They feed on leaves. That's why they have that really, really long neck to get to the top of the trees so they can feed. They have the same chambered stomachs as cows that you might have at home. Let's see if we can just come a little bit across here. He's watching us very closely. There we go. There's a nice view, Seb. Seb's got a very big aerial on his back to facilitate him doing this camera work. And the giraffe just eyed that with a little skepticism, wondering who else is quite tall like me. I thought I was the biggest and tallest around. But look, he's very interested in us. Stopped chewing even. And that is a male. You can see those horns on top of the head, which are actually called ossicones. And they are very thick. The male's got very thick ossicones, and the female is very small. So giraffes are browsers, and they feed on the leaves at the top of the tree. And to allow them to do that, they've needed a very, very long neck. In the male giraffe, they will fight by standing next to each other. They stand next to each other like this, and then they swing that big neck. And what's happened is through many, many, many centuries, the neck has gotten longer and longer because it allows them to swing that neck a lot harder. And those ossicones you see on the top of his head, that is what he uses to hit the other giraffe with. And so the heavier the head is, the bigger the head is, and the longer the neck is, the more chance he's got of knocking his opponent to the ground. And the strongest male will have the rights to the females. So he is not playing around. He wants to move off from us, and we're going to continue, because if you notice behind us, the sun has set and it is getting quite dark. So we're going to start making our way back before the dangerous animals show themselves, and we're going to go over to Taylor down at Chitwa Dam.
We are at Chitwa Dam, and I'm so happy to have you all join us here this afternoon. I'm Taylor, and on camera, you can't see David, but you can see his hand is David, like I just said. Now, this is a really, really cool dam, and I'm so happy that all the lovely children from Legacy Elementary have joined us again. I think this is your second drive with us, which is quite exciting, if I'm not mistaken. And I hope you learned a lot the last time, if it is the same class. If not, well, welcome. And you can ask your teacher all the questions that you want to ask about any of the animals out here. But ones that we've got to show you are hippos, and there are such funny animals. Now, this is a big pod of hippos. There's lots and lots of different family groups here, and you've actually come and joined us at the perfect time. You're probably wondering, Taylor, why have we come to join you at the perfect time on the safari? Well, it's because the hippos are just starting to wake up. So when I came around here earlier, the hippos weren't doing anything. I could just see their ears, their eyes, and their nostrils. But now they're super excited because they know that dinner is going to be served soon. And when I say dinner, I mean that they're going to walk out of the water, they're going to leave the water, and they're going to go graze in the open. And Eddie, you've just wondered if they are herbivores. They are indeed herbivores, so they are vegetarians most of the time. And sometimes we see them playing on carcasses, and I haven't seen that really here in South Africa, but I saw it in the Masai Mara, which is in Kenya. Hippos were doing that. But they love to eat grass, and there's lots of green grass at the moment, so they will be very, very happy. Let's see, that looks like a big bull, the one at the back. And look, there's actually one on the right it's coming out of the water a little bit. Looks like a big rock. There we go. I think that one is a bit thirsty after the hot day and is having a bit of a drink. Now, often we see hippos underneath the water. And Aiden, you're wondering how long can they hold their breaths? Well, they can hold their breaths for about 6 minutes or so. Maybe a little bit longer, but who's counting? A lot longer than you and I could even dream of holding our breaths for. Do you see that hippo's got lots of scratches on it? You may have seen it before. It plopped down into the water. It actually looks like it's been maybe bullied a little bit, been fighting with some of the other hippos, and they've got big teeth. So it's kind of like going through a paper shredder and get these little cuts on them. Now, speaking of hippos and fighting, Anya, you're wondering, why would they want to fight? Why can't they all just be friends? Well, it's normally the males. It's normally the bulls that do the fighting, so we call the boys bulls, and they'll fight for territories and also over the girls. Often battles are over girls, and you'll get the big boys coming in and they want to have the most females in their pod. So pod is what we used to call a group of hippos, and we call that a collective noun. And they fight and fight and fight, only when they have to though. Sometimes we get to see the fights. They're crazy. I was just telling the other school that joined us before that it sounds like dinosaurs when they're fighting. It's a crazy sound. I bet if you came here and you heard that noise at night, you'd be terrified. Sometimes it even scares me a little bit, to be honest. But they're all getting ready. But you know what I've just seen? I've just found some more animals. Can you believe that? And I want to try and get there, but we'll go there in a minute. But we'll answer Gareth's question, as if hippos have predators. So sometimes the crocodiles get a little bit on the cheeky side, and then they want to try and take a young hippo, but those hippos won't stand for the crocodiles. But when a hippo comes out of the water, something like a lion will probably be the worst thing that's going to be able to take it down. If it's a young hippo, even something like a hyena, a big clan of hyenas, will take a young hippo. Now, the reason why I'm moving away from here is because I've just seen a whole bunch of elephants. They're a little bit further away, but we'll get there at some point. I'm just trying to think what's going to be the best way around. But I'm going to try and show you all the big mammals today. So we've got one, we've got the hippos. Hopefully we're going to see some elephants soon. Who knows? Maybe we'll even be able to see some buffalo. But Scott is also out driving around, and he's been waiting for the lions to cross onto Djuma. Let's go see if they are any closer.
Sadly, it doesn't sound like the lions have come any closer to us yet. So what I'm doing in the meantime is trying to follow a herd of buffalo, the very same herd of buffalo that a young male leopard was trying to hunt this morning. And it looks like the tracks of the buffalo, I saw them where we are here now earlier, but it looks like their tracks have headed off in that direction. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, if we're lucky, that leopard may be following them, because he could well know that there's an easy meal, not an easy meal, but a possible meal waiting in the small calves within that herd. So I'm going to continue trying to catch up with the buffalo. I think later on this evening, the lion that we are hoping to see are also going to try and catch up with the buffalo. They did that last night. The lions did try and catch the buffalo last night, but didn't have any luck. So maybe tonight the leopard and the lion will get lucky. Only time will tell. Jocelyn, you would like to know, what is the environment like here? And let me just move this branch out the road. Well, I'm not too sure exactly what you mean by that. it's a question that's actually stumped me. So I don't know what more to say. It's a peaceful environment. It's a wild environment. It's a natural environment because it's completely natural. I'm not doing very well here, Jocelyn. Shane, you'd like to know if I've ever encountered a lion on foot? Yes, many times. Lion, leopard, elephant, buffalo, rhino, all of the animals and all of us guides here have come across various dangerous animals on foot. And most of the time, interestingly enough, animals run away from us, even lions. Even though they could very well kill us if they wanted to, they don't. They want to avoid any danger, any trouble, and it's only if you really, really annoy a lion or any animal that they will attack you. Unless it's a mother with a very small cub. Those will sometimes attack you with less warning because they are very, very protective over their young children, just like your mothers would have been with you. So, like I said, most of the time when we do find the lions and we're tracking them, following their footprints on foot, when they see us, they actually run away. Sometimes they will run towards us and growl just to say, hey, close enough. But most of the time, they actually run away. Scaredy cats. I guess maybe that's where the saying comes from. Very good. We are going to send you across to Taylor, whose elephants have come a little bit closer.
Okay. They have indeed, or actually we got closer to them. But how beautiful is, well, the sunset this evening out here in South Africa. Now, this is Mom. This is a female elephant, and her youngster has actually just walked right past the car. I don't even think you'll be able to see it anymore. There it goes. Where is it racing off to? Perhaps it smelt the marulas, which is a tree that grows out here, and it gets the most delicious fruit at this time of the year. So that's mainly what the elephants are feeding on at the moment. And of course, seeing as though there's lots of grass around, they're not going to say no. And you can see this cow is actually pulling the grass right up with her trunk and then popping it into her mouth and grinding it down before swallowing. Well, they don't grind it too well. You can even hear it. Have a little listen. Also using the grass as a fly swatter. Must tickle her belly every now and then. Sometimes what they also do is when they pull the grass out, you get a lot of the roots still attached and all the soil, so they'll shake that off before they put it in their mouth. Now, if I could have one superpower in the whole world, it would be to talk to elephants. And Hayley, you were wondering if the animals actually have a secret language that they use to communicate with one another. Well, funny enough, all these animals out here can all understand one another, from the birds to the impala to the hippopotamus. So if one gives an alarm call to say, there's maybe a leopard or something around, they'll all understand that, except us. We won't understand that, but I'm still trying to learn their language. And they don't just communicate by using sounds, they also communicate by using their body language. So, for instance, when an elephant is very upset, to show that it's upset, it might put its ears out to make it look bigger, or it might trumpet, make a prrrr. That's normally not a very happy sign. And then the tail is also a good way to try and figure out what an elephant's mood in it. But you can use the tail for a lot of different animals, like leopards and lions too. They'll also tell you what, if they're happy or angry, just by moving their tail around in a certain way. But at the moment, she's using it as a fly swatter. Here we go. Because there's lots and lots of little biting insects out. And even though an elephant has got thick skin, they've got hair covering their entire body so they can feel it. Now, elephants are very, very peaceful creatures. most of the time, except like this afternoon. I was actually chased by an elephant cow, but she was very angry, and I don't know what was wrong. I felt very sad that she felt the need to chase us, but we're okay, we're fine, we left her alone. And Bodhi, you were wondering if elephants kill other animals. Not necessarily. I mean, the animals out here, they don't want to hurt one another. They want to leave each other alone and go about their day. But if an elephant cow and her young calf are being chased around by a predator, that girl's going to show no fear, and she's going to defend her youngster, even if that means killing a lion or something else. So it also depends on the season. So in winter, in this area, all the grass disappears, and a lot of the trees lose their leaves too. So you can imagine the animals become very, very stressed, and they don't have a lot of water because there's no rain, and they don't have a lot of food to eat, so they become hungry, they're dehydrated, they're very angry. And when they do find a little bit of water, often, oh, she's having a bit of a scratch now, often there's lots of other animals that are trying to drink too, and animals start to become very, very protective over areas where there are water. So then there can be a bit of conflict around. But at this time of the year, where there's lots of water around, there's lots of food, normally they're quite happy. Now you can see those houses in the background. That's a lodge called Chitwa, so people come and stay on safari here. How great is that, to have elephants on your doorstep? Isn't that cool? There's one, if you're wondering what those lights were. Okay. Now we're going to switch to infrared now, which is a special light that we can basically see in the dark with, and doesn't affect the animals. It's getting a little bit too dark. So are you ready for this? Whew, look at that. Now everything is in black and white, so we'll be able to see a lot better. Grayson, you're wondering if the elephants will ever use their tusks to defend themselves. Oh yes, most certainly. That's exactly what they will use when they find themselves in a bit of trouble, but not just defending themselves. In fact, an elephant uses its tusks more like a digging tool than anything. So we were just talking about the winter months. Well, let me quickly reposition, because we're getting to an awkward spot now behind the car. So in the winter months, when there's no food, you can still dig for water, lots of water in the dry riverbeds, and you can also dig for bulbs and things like that under the ground. So the elephants are able to do so. So they'll put their heads down, basically use their tusks, dig them into the ground, loosen the soil around, and dig up all sorts of things. The other thing that they also do, I'm so sorry, my eye is very itchy now, is they can eat the bark off of the tree. And you can't just pull the bark from the tree, so they have to use their tusks to score the bark. So they make a cut in the tree, and they loosen it, and then they strip it with their trunks. They pull it up, and then they'll eat that as well. But luckily for them, they don't have to eat those things that don't taste as delicious as the marula fruits or the grass and the lovely green leaves. Now, we've seen this elephant use its trunk the entire time we've been watching them. So a trunk is a very important body part to an elephant. It's basically like an arm. And Aiden, you're wondering if an elephant could survive without its trunk. Now, I'm going to tell you all a very sad story. Some of you might not like it, but it's the reality, unfortunately. Now, we may have heard of people poaching animals, where they'll kill them illegally. We obviously don't like that, and we have lots of security systems to try and protect the animals. But sometimes what happens is that people will set up a trap called a snare, which is essentially a piece of wire. I'm so sorry, I've just rubbed my eyes, so they're probably very red. I've got really bad allergies at this time of the year with all the grass. And so they'll make a piece of wire like this, and it'll be a trap. So basically what they're trying to catch, though, is maybe an antelope, so maybe an impala, maybe a bushbuck, because they want to catch the animal to eat the meat. But something like an elephant comes through and will put its trunk through. And of course, with a snare, it pulls tight, and eventually it can cut off the circulation, and it might actually lose part of its trunk. And we do see a lot of elephants out here that don't have their full trunks, so they actually are able to survive without it. But life is very difficult. They have to go to the trees and bite the leaves. It's not very nice to see. And when you're a big animal like that and you're not getting the amount of food you should be getting every single day, it's going to start to stunt your growth. So you'll often see the elephants that are missing parts of their trunk are typically a little bit smaller than the rest. So it's very sad. But I have seen it before, and they are indeed able to survive without their trunks. I mean, there's one elephant we call half trunk. And we see her quite often. She's missing half of it. There we go. Oh, look who else has joined the party. It's the impala. And Ocean, you just asked what those animals are, the back behind the elephants. So this is the most common antelope species in Africa. And that young elephant, I think, is going to chase some of them. See them all running now? You might not be able to see because it's just gone behind Mom. So the reason why there are so many of them, here it goes. Chase them quickly. Chase the impala little elephant, having a bit of fun this afternoon, is because they can eat lots and lots of different things. They don't just eat leaves or just grass. They eat a combination of everything. So they're able to survive all sorts of different habitats, and they adapt very easily to their surrounding. This looks like a very naughty elephant. Look at him, going to cause trouble amongst all the impala. And I haven't seen so many impala like this for a very, very long time. Now we're going to see the impala jumping really high too, which they're good at. Should we go? I think we should go after that little elephant. He looks like a lot of fun. He looks like my kind of friend, the one that's causing all the trouble. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit closer to watch this elephant chase the impala around, or perhaps eat some marulas. Let's go see where Scott is and what he's got to show you next.
Well, I'm just turning the car around because I jumped out actually to move some branches that elephants had put in the road, and I noticed some leopard tracks. And it's of a female leopard with a young cub. And what's interesting is that her tracks go up this road, one set of tracks, and then another set of tracks come back down the road with the cub, which means maybe she was out hunting, made a kill, came back to collect the cub where she had hidden it, and she's now taking the cub back down the road. So very, very exciting stuff, and I'm going to need to concentrate on trying to find these leopard for you quickly before the end of the safari, so we're going to send you back to the naughty elephant with Taylor.
Go, Scott. I hope you find those leopards, because I know everybody watching today will be very, very excited if you can do that. Now, our little elephant has been very naughty, as Scott suggested, because he has been chasing around the impala. But he seems to be preoccupied now. He's underneath a tree called a marula tree, and he's picking up all the fruits. So these big ones that you can see are dropping all, not this one, but that one over there, that big tree has got all the marula fruits dropping from it. The other one was a jackalberry, which also gets fruit, but not now, a little bit later in winter. There they go, bounding behind that elephant. Now they're not going to be too scared of that elephant, they just know to keep out of his way. Now, this little elephant is still hanging around, Mum, but Angelina, you're wondering at what age do the little ones leave home? So, it's quite interesting, Angelina. The girl elephants stay with their moms and the rest of the herd for their entire life. So they will carry on and pass on all the secrets that their mothers and their aunts and grannies have all taught them. However, with the boys, so that young boy over there, when he gets to about 15 years old, anywhere between 15 and about 18 years of age, he's going to be kicked out of the herd. And the reason why he's going to get kicked out of that herd is because he becomes very naughty. If you thought he was naughty now, wait till you see him in 10 years' time. My goodness, he's going to be causing all sorts of havoc, trying to chase the other little elephants around, bullying them, and then also being too excited about the ladies, and he shouldn't be because he's too young. So the girls get sick of this nonsense, and they all stand together and they say, right, we've had enough of you, off you go on your own. So he'll have to go off, he'll have to leave home, pack his bags, and then go and find, well, a new friend. Normally that's what they do. They'll find another young elephant bull of the same age, and they'll join up together just for companionship. But as they get older and older, they then don't rely on one another, and they can live all by themselves, which they do. But they're very excited by all the marulas that are on the ground now this evening. I can hear some guinea fowl that don't sound very happy. Can you hear them? Those are birds. They're birds, they're black birds, with black feathers with white spots on them. But sometimes they lie. They don't always tell the truth. I was hoping that it would be a leopard, but now that they've stopped, it makes me think no. They were just telling stories, trying to get us excited, so we won't go and see what they're up to. We'll stay here with the elephants. Mom's very calm. Now, very nice to be able to sit here with these elephants. I'm going to just make sure that I watch what they're doing. Ethan, you're wondering, how does an elephant clean himself? Well, elephants like to stay dirty, funny enough. They cover themselves with mud and sand at any opportunity that they get. And especially on a hot day like today, they would have definitely had a mud bath or perhaps gone swimming and thrown some dust on themselves. So elephants don't like to stay clean. But when they do go for a swim, because the happiest elephants you'll ever see are the elephants that are swimming in the water, I suppose that does themselves a clean. But imagine an elephant with a scrubbing brush standing there going, little clean behind the ears, you know, all those types of things. But they don't really worry about doing that at all. Well, those guinea fowls started shouting again. I don't know why. Going to listen to them? Well, we're hearing alarm calls coming from all over around the dam, and I think that's what Scott's going to be listening out for too, to help him find that leopard.
Okay guys, sorry, I'm just concentrating here to try and follow these tracks. It's very difficult business, and it looks like, sadly, the tracks veer off into the bush over here. Just going to try and leave the spotlight dangling there so I can see. I think I can see one track over there. So I just want to make sure quickly. Yeah. So the track goes off into the grass over here, and that means we're going to have to just come back in the morning and follow up. I'm confident that she could well have made a kill and has not taken the cub back to it somewhere in this area, but it's simply too thick for us to try and follow up now. Too dark, definitely couldn't spend time on foot, and at least good prospects for the morning, and at least they have come deeper into our property because they were right on our boundary. Well, where to go next? Shoo! I was so excited following those tracks and was really hoping that we were going to be able to find her before the end of the safari, but no joy. But I'm definitely going to come back here in the morning. Garrett, you would like to know if there are lizards here. And yes, there certainly are lizards. There's many different types of lizards or lizard-like animals. We have chameleons, of which I'm hoping to try and find you one now. It's easier to find chameleons after dark with a spotlight than it is to find them during the day, because they show up a kind of pale color, usually a pale white color compared to the dark green leaves of the bushes. We also get skinks, monitor lizards, agama lizards, geckos that come out at night. What else? The agamas live in trees usually. Well, the ones we get here. You also get some rock agamas up in Kenya. So yeah, lots of different lizards, all different shapes and sizes. I guess crocodiles are a type of lizard. You also get them. Not too many, sadly, but they are here. So, yeah. Hopefully, like I said, I can try and find you a chameleon before the end of the safari. Jocelyn, you would like to know if we get frogs. And yes, lots of different types of frogs and toads. I actually found a frog earlier on the safari, a tree frog, high up in a tree, that actually makes a big foamy nest that it lays its eggs in. It looks like some bubble bath is just hanging from a tree. That's where they build their nests, and once the tadpoles are big and heavy, they fall out of that foamy nest and into the puddle below. So their parents very cleverly build them nice houses above the water, although sometimes, sadly, those puddles dry up and the tadpoles toosh into the dust. So those ones won't make it. But there are lots of different types of frogs. Some that live out on land, some that live in trees, some that are always in the water. Just holding the flashlight low every now and then just to check for any tracks. It's useful to hold the flashlight low when looking for tracks because it can help you to see the ridges of the tracks. There were some male leopard tracks over there, but I don't think they're very fresh. Whoop, nearly crashed into a tree. Ha! Wouldn't have been the first time. Dee Dee, you would like to know, why do leopards put their food up in trees? And it's because they want to try and make sure that other animals can't steal it from them. Hyenas, one of the biggest scavengers of this area that give the leopard a hard time, can't climb trees, so that's why leopards like to do it. But even lions battle to climb trees as well as leopard. So it's just a safe place where they can store their food without worrying about other animals stealing it. And it's an incredible skill that they have to be able to carry. Imagine you had to carry your own body weight dangling in your mouth up a tree, because that's what leopards can do. Incredible power and agility. So that's why they do that. They're the only big cat that in Africa that have that skill and ability. Lions can climb trees, but it's not very pretty. Not a very effective tree climber, the lion. Not nearly as efficient and smooth as seeing a leopard glide up a tree effortlessly. Come on, chameleons. Where are you hiding? I just want to go to sleep as soon as I can so that I can wake up as soon as I can so I can continue following those leopard tracks. That's all I can think about at the moment. I cannot wait for that in the morning. It's going to be a real adventure. So that's what my mind's thinking about. Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to keep on making... Oh, here's a bird in the road. It's called a nightjar. And it's a very cool bird. You'll notice it's got a very, very big eye. And that's what helps it to see and hunt at night. You can see it's... Oh, did it just catch something? I think it did. Now, you'll notice its beak is very, very small. But, interestingly, it's got small little whiskers that grow outwards, almost creating a bit of a funnel into the beak. And it can open its mouth very, very wide. And that's what helps it to catch its insects at night. And why it likes sitting on the road like this is because when it looks up to the sky... Oh! You see, it just flew up and probably caught something. Let's see if it's chewing on anything. So it's busy hunting at the moment. And as I was saying before it flew off, it can look up into the sky and not have any grass or twigs or branches or bushes obscuring its view of insects. So it's like the perfect hunting ground. Oh! I think it got another one. Senzo's being tested here. Senzo, maybe just stay wider. Let's just stay wide and see what happens. Yeah. Because I'm sure it won't take long to fly up again. It'll be wonderful to see. You guys saw that moth fly through there. Quite a few bugs buzzing about. And it looks like it's about to launch an attack again. There it goes. out of our view, but I'm sure it's going to come back and land in a similar spot. Where have you gone? Well, that was really, really cool. And even though it seems to have disappeared for now, some interesting stuff to witness after dark with these wonderful infrared cameras which allow us to film without interfering on what the animals are getting up to. Very good. We're going to continue on and send you back to Taylor for a quick update on how she is getting along.
Well, we've moved away now from the elephants in the dam, and I just almost choked on an insect. So my eyes are watering, so I promise I'm not crying, I'm not sad. I'm just trying to catch my breath again. And now, we're going to see if we can help Scott find a leopard. We were looking for Hosanna, which I think is the same leopard that Scott was looking for now. We will see if there's maybe two of us. Will give us a better chance. No, never mind. Scott was looking for Tandy and her little cub. So we will check here for Hosanna, another leopard. Oh, who we got driving down the road? Let me put my bright lights off. Somebody's coming through here. Another safari vehicle. Now, Jenny, are you wondering if I've ever been bitten by an animal other than an insect? Well, it might be hard one. Let me think of this one. I was bitten by a lizard once. I tried to catch it, which I probably shouldn't have been doing. It then returned the favor by biting my finger and it wouldn't let go. So I've been bitten by one of those. That wasn't here. That was in Zambia, though. It was quite funny. Everybody laughed at me. It made me bleed. It was a type of gecko. I think it was a tropical house gecko, in fact. So I've been bitten by one of those. I have been bitten by... What else have I been bitten by? Oh, I've got to think. What other wild animals? I'm pretty sure I've been bitten by a dormouse before too, also in Zambia. Because again, I tried to save them and they didn't like people very much and I got my fingers in the wrong place and they nipped me. David, have I been bitten by anything here? No. Gregory's our friend. Gregory is a girl. Bit confusing. Even I get confused somewhere. Gregory's a tortoise and she comes into camp all the time. She's very naughty. And if you don't give her... Oh, there's another nightjar. If you don't give her what she wants, she bites your toes. Let's see. No, it's gone now. Sorry, everybody. It just flew off to the side. So she's quite naughty. I don't know if I've been bitten by her, though. She has bitten my shoe before, but she hasn't nipped my finger. She's tried to eat them a few times. So, other than those animals, no, I haven't been bitten by too many things. Now, you might be wondering why I'm concentrating so hard. It's because I want to try and beat Scott and find a chameleon before him. How cool would it be to see a chameleon? It'd be really nice. And this is a good area too, because it's lots of trees, lots of leaves, lots of good spots for the chameleons to sit out on. Ooh. Now, speaking of all the animals that we should see at night, Anya, you're wondering what is the most common one? I'm going to have to say the nightjar that you sat and watched, Scott. You sat with Scott and you watched it catch insects. They're pretty common. You see them a lot. And then you hear the bats too. Lots of bats around at night. Owls. And lots of little critters. In fact, we see lots of chameleons too. Lots and lots of different animals. It's when all the leopards and the lions like to come out to play because it's not so hot anymore. They can come out and do hunting. They can hunt under the cover of darkness. So it's really, really nice for them out here. So you can really see a lot of anything. I can't believe we haven't found a chameleon yet. Scott and I are obviously not very good at finding them. Now, Rice, you're wondering, Rice or Reese? Bryce, not with a P. With a B? With a P? With a B. Bryce. Okay. Sorry, Bryce. Just say, oh, whose name would be Rice? It's very silly of me. I can't stop laughing now. I'm so sorry. I've got the giggles. Please have that whole question again. Oh, no. I think it's time to almost go home. Are there different coloured leopards? Asks Bryce. Well, we're at the spot where I left Hosana, a young male leopard, this morning, so we'll see if he's here. So you can get, I suppose, yes, you can sort of get different coloured leopards. Up in this area, there is a type of leopard called, still the normal leopard, but it's a strawberry colour, strawberry leopards. Sometimes you see them. I've never seen one, though. And I suppose you could also get a melanistic leopard. So melanistic means it would be completely black. I've also never seen one of those. Otherwise, they are normally here in South Africa. Beautiful colours. I'm just quickly checking. I can hear the frogs. Let me go closer to the water if we can see a frog. Oh, there's so many insects. Look at that. Oh no, there's mosquitoes. Oh, we can look here. There's lots of terrapins. No, don't swim away. The terrapins are in the water. You can see one just there. If I put the light on it, then it goes away. But there's 2 terrapin heads, and I'm going to try to sit in the darkness because there's lots of mosquitoes around us now. But those are, you would probably call them a turtle, but we call them terrapins here in South Africa. So it's not a turtle that lives in the ocean, and it's not a tortoise that lives on land either. It is something in between, and they like to live in water, but they can also come out of the water too. And they eat lots of different things. But they're probably very tired now. They've had a long day of looking for food and swimming around. They probably come to the edge of the water to just have a little rest. It's also getting a little bit chillier now, so I don't think they'll be as active. There are lots of frogs here, but I can't see the frogs. I can just hear them. You can listen to them making noises. This is where we now need the bats to come and eat all these mosquitoes. Oh, look, there's some birds. Some blacksmith lapwings. Oh, here's a question I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer. Shane, you're wondering if I know how sticky chameleons' tongues are. I can't say that I've ever touched a chameleon's tongue before, but I do know that there is some saliva on it, and so I suppose it must be a little bit sticky to some degree, but I've never touched one before. Look at the birds. They're helping us collect all the insects. They must be very happy, and I'm surprised that their crops, so that's where they store their food, aren't bursting at the seam now. See them, look, pecking away, catching all those little insects that are landing on the water. Delicious. Well, delicious to a bird, not to me, I'm afraid. But I hope that you have all enjoyed your time with us this afternoon. So it's been great having all of you from Legacy Elementary, and we look forward to having many more safaris with you. Did you see that one? It tried to get me. They're trying to get me. I've got to cover my mouth to talk to all of you tonight. It's all because of all the lights that we've got on at the moment so that you can see me. But it's been an amazing day, and I hope that you loved it just as much as all of us and learned a little bit. But remember to stay tuned for the next time and brush your teeth.